everyone, thanks for joining us. We've got an I/O special. Sergey Brin. We're talking all things Google. Thanks for taking the time to chat.
Thank you, Logan. And you and I are all the time in chat spaces on all kinds of products, but it's nice to hang out in real life.
Yeah, it is my California experience is always, it's incredibly fun. I spent a bunch of time with Korai yesterday and today, and like it's like you feel the warmth and the humanity of AI progress when you spend time in person with everyone. So it's been a ton of fun. But we're sitting here at I/O, and I think the general sentiment from the world, and I think also from the team internally, is like incredibly great day for Google. A ton of progress across models, across all of our products. What's your take? What's your reaction? Obviously, there's a lot of stuff we still need to do, but where's your head at?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a phenomenal set of announcements. Honestly, I probably didn't even know about 30% of them or so. There's only so much time, and I'm kind of deep in the weeds on Gemini, and I didn't even know about the virtual fit, for example, for products in Google Search.
Yeah.
I didn't realize we were shipping that. So there were many things that also even surprised me. That was great. I think the reception's been great. There are so many things, though. I think it takes a while for people to explore them, wrap their heads around them. And obviously, we're very busy delivering all of them right now. And it's a lot of energy across the way, just make sure things are actually shipping smoothly, that people are, able to sign up for Ultra, have all those new features and so forth.
Yeah. I feel like I/O is the start of lots of work for lots of other people. It's like at the finish line for some teams, and then it's like the starting line for a bunch of other teams. How do you think about, obviously we launched more, there's a bunch of Gemini announcements, Gemini Diffusion we'll talk more about later, DeepThink, which is like continuing to push the frontier on reasoning models. I see you in the reasoning strike chat all the time, sort of pushing on people to keep pushing the frontier, which I love to see. How do you think about sort of maybe how you think about your focus, but also just like generally the like DeepMind team's focus around like VO and Imagine, and we have like a whole suite of generative media models. We just announced a Lyria, our music model, and then also at the same time like the core Gemini main model. Like how do you work on the Gen Media stuff at all, or is it mostly like laser focus on Gemini at the moment?
Mostly I'm on Gemini, the core text model. Primarily because I think that's what will lead to, for example, self-improvement.
Yeah.
Will help us code and develop the science behind AI even better. So that's the number one focus that I have. At the same time, the generative media is so amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just so superhuman, I mean, with a text model, there's some like math problems or whatever that I might be able to solve that it gets wrong or something like that, or stumbles on a piece of code, although that's less and less frequent. And I actually end up now relying on Gemini to do some like coding, math, and so forth. But nevertheless, it's sort of in the range of human.
Yeah.
Given my artistic talent, there would be zero chance of me ever coming up with either, an image or a video. I mean, just the amount of work that would, I imagine, would take if I was an expert, videographer, 3D renderer, or whatever, special effects person. I mean, that's got to be, a month of solid work to get the thing that I can get in a few minutes. And obviously it's visually so compelling that, it just kind of sucks you in. You can't escape it.
The audio piece with VO just makes it feel like I historically have, personally, I think like generating videos is awesome and stuff, but it's always like kind of felt slightly gimmicky to me. And I think when I saw audio in VO3 on stage yesterday, I think it like that was the moment for me where I was like, okay, this is actually, so many people are going to be able to use, just because also practically, historically, like you could generate a video, but then like you'd have to go and like, where does audio come from? How do you, sync everything up? And now like you can make humans like talking and having a conversation, and like it just does it all well, and it blew my mind.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I've been a huge fan of that. I'm like a pretty visual person personally. I'm not like a very, I guess, audio person, but over the years, especially, like with Google Glass, I mean, the moment we added some sound, I mean, that's just like, it adds so much richness to have sound.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you're better off adding audio than adding like 3D, for example. Um, Although some of the 3D stuff's cool if you played with the big wearable thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyhow, um, yeah, it's just an incredible change in perception when you get audio working. And I knew I saw the model training the last month or two, and I just saw it from checkpoint to checkpoint, and I knew that wow, this is just going to feel different.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the like fusion of those capabilities, because it does seem like there's a lot of like similarities to mainline Gemini model, and obviously we landed native audio support in the mainline Gemini model at I/O, and in VO as well. And I was having a conversation with Tulsi this morning about just like how, you know, are those similar breakthroughs? Are they different? It sounds like it's actually technologically very different from a technology standpoint, but it is cool that we have like other rails to do this innovation, and like ideally it all upstreams back to Gemini in some way.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think we've just taken a long time to ship the native audio in Gemini. It's been in there for,
Back in
over
December,
a
right?
year.
Oh, really?
No, in the base model
Yeah.
has had audio that it's trained on for at least a year. And I don't know, there's always like, I think honestly it's just, there's just so much to do, so much to ship that nobody is, for whatever reason, gotten it out there. And I mean, like native audio in, native audio out. I think native audio in has been in there even longer. But to get through all the little hoops to make it really work well and so forth, I just think for whatever reason, took a long time. But yeah, that's finally out there. I don't think that's done, as you say, the same way VO does it. I believe does the audio also through diffusion, just like it does the video.
Yeah.
In fact, if you watch during the training run, you can actually see it generating videos that are like, a couple percent into it. It's these kind of, the shapes aren't quite right and the words are kind of warbled and something like that. But then it takes shape and it develops until, at the end of the run, you have what you have, what you see today. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's diffusion-based audio. Yeah, I mean, diffusion is a really powerful technique. As you know, we shipped text diffusion for, small early test run. I mean, I think that's one of the things that I'm grateful that we have, the bench of machine learning researchers in there that we can pursue simultaneously different base techniques for across modalities.
Yeah, the results of Gemini diffusion look super, super promising so far. I'm hopeful the model progress is there and like it all fully works, because the demo works. We were talking off camera. The demo looks really good. So hopefully it like the capability translates well and everything works from that perspective. But you mentioned this before about like watching the training run. I actually haven't seen what this looks like. So like, what does it actually mean to watch the training run?
Oh, okay. Well, maybe you've seen for our text models, but we're able to test out the intermediate checkpoints. In 10% of training, 20% of training, and so forth. And it's the model is weak at those points in time, but you can kind of get a sense for the trajectory.
Yeah.
And so, usually, especially if you have a big training run that you have a lot you're using a lot of compute and you have high hopes for it, you're going to test it out in various ways through, many times throughout the run. So you're going to have a pretty good sense of what it's on trend for.
Yeah.
So that's true for the text models. That's true for the Fusion, video model for VO. All of these models kind of have these intermediate results that you can take a peek at. And if you're, really deep in there, you're for sure checking them because you're nervous and excited about what exactly it will produce.
Yeah. I need to come and hang out at the MK more and watch
100%. Yeah, come over later.
and
Yeah.
watch some of them. Yeah. One of the I was listening to Sundar's conversation with Dave Freeberg, and Sundar made the comment that even 15 years ago, you and Larry and him were having conversations about, and like the team at Google were having conversations about like what this future-facing AI moment would look like, and that it's like eerily close to what you all were talking about 10 or 15 years ago. I'm curious, like what are the things that have been most surprising to you about this moment, like even, and we can ground it in products if you want to look at search or just the technology, or like what's been surprising, and what's been like almost what you would have expected to have happened.
Yeah, I think from an intellectual standpoint, you can kind of reason your way through the singularity. And, famously, Ray Kurzweil did this, I don't know, however many decades ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of, I don't remember what date he said. It was 2037, or I can't remember. He put some date on it based on his extrapolation. Today it looks like maybe that was kind of conservative. I don't know. But you can intellectually sort of reason through it. I think to see it happening is altogether different.
Yeah.
And I think when you're kind of talking, 15 years ago, I won't say you're like joking around. You're like truly talking about it, but you're kind of like, imagining the science fiction future, but it's almost like a game, like you're just kind of, chatting with the other folks who are interested in it. Like, I think it's fun. Um, but yeah, as I said, seeing it actually start to happen, feels very different.
Yeah.
And of course, the way in which it happens is pretty surprising. And I can give you an example. I mean, the fact that language models seem to be right now the way that, AI is developing, I don't think you necessarily would have known that 15 years ago. In fact, DeepMind, in the past, and even now to a certain extent, has bet a lot on this kind of physical grounding, that it's important to have kind of a physical world to ground on. And we're obviously doing experiments in that vein, like Genie and whatnot. But the fact that these language models have come as far as they have wasn't obvious. And an interesting side effect of that, especially with the thinking models, is that they are also surprisingly interpretable. Like, you can look through the thoughts of one of these thinking models and how it's coming to the conclusions that it's coming to. You can't necessarily, without a huge number of tools, inspect the weights of the model and try to infer stuff from that. But you can understand, a lot of its reasoning in very understandable terms. So I think that's kind of you wouldn't necessarily have guessed that 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's been an interesting surprise, which I think gives a lot of comfort, not infinite comfort. I'm not saying we should ignore it, but from a safety standpoint, the fact that these things do to some extent say what they're thinking, I think is a big plus. And yeah, there are papers out there about how they're sort of lying and stuff, but I think that's a relatively smaller effect.
What's your sense, just being close to the model training process today, as far as like how different or how similar it's going to look as the models move from being like text in, token out, or text out, to being like actual systems? And I think we're actually like, we've already taken it, like Gemini 2.0, like search is natively in there, code execution is natively in there, like the model is learning that in the process. Do you think the like training infrastructure, or just like the way we think about models, is going to be fundamentally different as they're not models anymore, they're really like full systems that we're baking for people?
Um, I think it's the confluence of a few things. One thing, it's kind of remarkable how similar architecturally all the different models are, including, for example, VO, which you would think video diffusion's like very different than some text language model. But architecturally, there's a huge amount shared. It's kind of astonishing how much is shared, and a lot of it, uses transformers at the core, which, thanks to Noam and crew, we've had now for approaching a decade. Um, Now we are adding things like tool use and so forth. Mostly those things come about during what we call post-training. And post-training is an increasing fraction of the overall training. It used to be that everything was like 99% pre-training, and it's sort of shifting now to now maybe it's 90%, will be 80%, and so forth. And this post-training, which is sort of, some people call fine-tuning, but it includes, the RL kind of work that we do. It used to be this just tiny bit of shaping you do in the end. But now it's more and more material. And the kind of things you're mentioning with tool use and so forth come in during that now much larger phase. Look, that makes the model vastly more powerful.
Yeah. I've got 2 more questions because I wanna get you back in the office working so that we can keep making model progress. First one is just around like the reasoning scaling. Like I think we showed the results of DeepThink, which is sort of continuous scale up 2.5 Pro and let it reason for longer and have sort of parallel thought processes. What's your sort of general reaction to that? I think it feels like we're so early in that scaling paradigm that there's like going to be a huge amount of additional unlock, but you're in the weeds on this one, so I'm curious what your thoughts are.
We have interesting, we had about like 5 different approaches to doing that kind of thing, and they all converged on this DeepThink. So it was great to see all those people and those teams come together, and that sometimes we fragment and it takes a long time. But in this case, we kind of took the best of ideas of all of them, combine it in one go, and it's definitely yielding stronger results, obviously. I think that the more that continues to happen, that is like a superpower. If you can have these models, and I know lots of the top AI labs talk about this, but if you can have these models, instead of just thinking for a minute, spitting out an answer, if you can leave them to go for an hour, for a day, or for a month maybe, and they actually get you a significantly better answer to a really important question, that can be incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
And that's kind of new, and it's non-trivial. It's a little bit like, we cracked long context for input. We did that a while ago, and we've had million plus context for a year and a half or something like that. Now
we need infinite context, so you got to keep pushing the team.
I'm not saying a million's enough, but that generalization is sort of non-trivial.
Yeah.
For a model to it's as if you were to go through like Groundhog Day. You just get over and over, you get to sample one day as a person. You try this, you try that, and now all of a sudden you're meant to live your life where stuff happens from day to day and week to week and month to month. It's kind of a non-trivial generalization, but we figured out how to do that. On the output side, it's just kind of non-trivial if all you do is say short little math problems. Going from that, well, it's kind of like, we interview people, we ask them 10 interview questions or whatever, and then we expect them to build these big systems over months, and it's not clear if that's actually the right way to test a person. But on the AI models, we do that a million times over. Like, we're only training them to do short little clever math questions, coding things, whatever.
Yeah.
And then the expectation from there that, hey, they actually can spend a long time to develop something new that requires, thinking over days, let's say, that's very non-trivial. But that is a gap that that we're starting to overcome, and that's a huge leap forward.
Yeah. This example that you gave around just like how we test and eval models is always my consistent reminder that so much of life is like this AI moment has taught me that so much of life is like actually an eval problem. And like the challenge of like even interviewing people and like trying to build a great team and all that stuff like is an eval problem at its heart. And like we humans haven't solved that. Like it's not surprising to me that we haven't solved the like AI eval problem as well. It is non-trivial to do that. My sort of final question for you, and this is just like again in reaction to everything that we're seeing with IO and the pace of innovation. Sundar had a slide on the screen, or actually Demis did, where it was like everything we shipped in 2024 and then everything we shipped in 2025 so far. And it was like, I'm pretty sure the 2025 section was bigger than the 2024 section. So like clear acceleration happening. And it feels like, at least on a personal level for me joining Google, I've been here almost a year, or a little more than a year now. Like Google truly feels like a startup experience to me. And I'm curious to get your reaction to that, but also just like your reaction in general, having like seen Google grow and, expand and everything that's happened in the last 20 years, how you think about that. And
Great question. I mean, first of all, I think companies need to periodically reinvent themselves. There are different important technology shifts, I guess. We started as a web company. We had to make mobile work. We're never particularly good at social, to be honest, as an example. But, now we're in the AI domain. And I think from there, like it's exciting because in some ways Google has always been an AI company.
Yeah.
We've always been about large scale data and analysis. We are also the place that gave birth to a lot of the modern large scale machine learning, from Google Brain to the transformer, and so forth. I mean, it is in the company's DNA. So this is a shift we should be really well equipped to make. Any shift's probably hard on any company, but I'm feeling really good about it. And I think going from 24 to where we were honestly catching up on many levels, to 25, and particularly with the launch of 2.5 Pro.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just like a clear leap forward. And I know, whatever, on different benchmarks, maybe we were for a bit number one before or not. 2.5 Pro was a big step forward, kind of across the board. And even, to date, it remains on most leaderboards number one, with style control, without style control, however you measure it. So that's been just a really exciting leap forward. And I think it's both sort of cause and effect of the kind of science, the science engine we have going behind it. It's going to help propel us forward, and it's thanks to what, all of the science we were doing over the past year that we were able to finally produce that model. And in quick succession after that, a lot of other things have followed. We've already gone through a few different iterations of 2.5 Pro model. I don't know if everybody noticed, yesterday we launched the new 2.5 Flash.
Yeah.
Do you notice that's actually, like, on many measurements, it's number 2 behind 2.5 Pro.
Yeah.
So we're like 1 and 2 on many different leaderboards now with that Flash model, which I think with all the other announcements, I just think a lot of people might have glossed over.
It got buried.
But it's like a super fast model. It's really powerful. I think it's going to appeal to a lot of use cases. But really with that kind of cornerstone of 2.5 Pro this year, I think for us to be able to build off of that and continue the momentum is really exciting.
It's going to be a great year. Sergey, I appreciate you for taking the time. I appreciate you for pushing everyone hard. It's a ton of fun to see. And we have a special gift for you, which I'd love to see you unbox. And somebody will bring it over to us in one sec.
Well, thank you, Logan. And while they bring it over, I'll just say thank you, Logan. I mean, I see you working hard all the time, and making all of our customers and partners happy, and tracking, the millions of issues that might arise. I mean, it's not that easy. Having these models that so many people and businesses want, and getting them deployed and not having the TPUs melt down, and every little nuance, from function calling to caching to all the million things. And I see you being really good about putting the customers first, communicating the needs back to the team, being just really on top of the ball. So
the
thank
team's
you.
crushing it. No, thank you. The team's crushing it. Special gift for you.
All right. Thank you. Shall I unbox it right
Yeah,
here?
you got to unbox it right now. We gotta capture.
All right,
As sort of the thread of this was just like one of the pieces, other than all the people inside of Google that makes all this possible. It's
Nice.
our TPUs.
This is the
It's a-
TPU
it-
V4, which internally, by the way, we call pufferfish. It's probably not too secret. I think pufferfish is V4, right?
Yeah, I
I
think
never
so.
know the external translation. We just call these. I mean, these were the hottest thing to come by like a year or two ago. We've moved on to newer generations now, but we still do a lot of our work on these. So this is great.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get a bunch of these in the MK for the team. And
This is really cool. Thank
It's
you.
a real one. They had to take it out of a data center somewhere. It was not being used. We were not taking compute down.
Really? Okay.
Emma's
be
gonna
careful.
come
We
find us.
definitely need
Yeah,
these.
we need the TPUs.
Sometimes some of the early samples are a little bit faulty, and maybe it's one of those.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure it
I
was.
appreciate it. That's super nice.
Of course.
Here, I'll give you a little zoom in on there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
and thanks
Logan.
for tuning in. For folks who are listening, this is Release Notes. Thanks for watching.